edition of Social Media News Live. Look, the gang is all back together. How cool is this? The start of the year. Is this our first one for the year?
This is our first one for the year,
yes.
and Erik was covering as co-host last year when we kicked off. So I feel like we've come full circle.
It's the circle of life.
It is the circle of life. I'm not picking you up, Erik, and pointing you.
The circle of live. Don't miss that.
Circle of lives. Yes. So,
that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Erik Fisher gets paid the big
bucks. That's right. So
he's the big brain.
I not seen a check from you, so not go there.
So as we get started, before we officially start the podcast, I want to talk a little bit about the stuff that we're talking about productivity today. But any tools that you have used, I kind of threw this on you at the end. Is for productivity, is there any tools? I mean, we've got our mic, which is, you're a podcaster, I'm a podcaster. That is pretty much a productivity tool. We both have, from Heil was nice enough to send both of us these PR40s, which are amazing microphones that we both use. Our Rodecaster Pro, we both have that. But what else do you have that you use for productivity tool wise?
Yeah. Well, often I'm using my phone, and so I've got this thing. Actually, I just found this. It is a magnetic charger from Anker.
I'm gonna put it full screen. Here you go.
This is a magnetic charger from Anker. So my phone. Okay, so my phone is on Do Not Disturb and not sitting here at the desk, so I could be fully focused. There's a productivity tip. But if I had it here, I'd be able to literally, it would stick to the back of my phone and charge it. And then the cool thing is that you can also pull this flap down and do this to it. So then it's got it's also a built-in stand.
Oh, cool.
For your phone. So you can do Instagram Live or stories or things like that. But it's this cool, just USB chargeable. You can see the lights turn on there. USB-C chargeable.
Yeah.
It can charge the phone up at least once, if not twice. I've got the newest phone, but this comes in this kind of grayish, blackish mesh tone. And then there's also a white one that I got my daughter and my wife, both white ones of this. So
very cool.
Easy to, and it stays. You can put this magnetically sealed to your phone in your pocket if you got a big enough pocket or a purse, and it will not pop off very easily. It stays adhered to it. So
cool.
There you go.
One of the things I want to bring I never do this, but I put myself up full screen. I love this little timer. It does 30 minutes. I wish you. All right, see, I can't even do it all at once. But it's it gives you a little break. So you have and it's a physical thing. You go, and it starts counting down to take a break for 5 minutes and then go back to you do a 30-minute work. I love that timer. I use it all the time. So what about you, Grace? What do you have? Anything exciting?
You know what? I am an old school paper planner type person. We were just talking about, us being all Gen X and just handwriting everything. So I get a new planner and it's on my desk all the time, and I just write things down all the time and have my little to-do list. So I'm very old school in that. And then I did this the week I was gone, cleaned my office. I mean,
wow. Let me see. Show it to the world. Look how clean it is.
I'm not showing it to the world. Okay. I'm not moving my camera setup.
Well, that reminds me. So, you said you do paper stuff. You're old school. I have it's streaming to Amazon right now, but I have my little iPad Mini that I use, and I have my Apple Pencil, and I love it because I take notes that way. So let us know in the comments. I see everybody's joining in live what you use. What are your favorite productivity tools? We're getting ready to start the show. I want to do a shout out to some people who are watching. We've got a friend over on LinkedIn. Gabe is saying, hello, everyone. Welcome to the live show. We got Juan saying live. We are always, it's 3 lives all in a row. Our friend Brian is, I think he's in Barcelona right now. I think that's where he said yesterday. He's watching, it's the evening over there, so thanks for watching that. And my Mitch says, not even 30 seconds into the stream, and we got Erik Fisher with a dad joke. Gold, yeah. And one of our favorites, Sabrina, is here. Thank you again, Sabrina, for showing up every week. Yes, and snowy Cape Cod we got people coming in from everywhere. This is amazing. And our friend Chris Stone's going old school. Yeah, He's
Rocketbook. He said
he's
Rocketbook. That's another really good
a
productivity
lot of
tool,
people doing
Rocketbook.
our paper planner. Have you those people who do those really fancy planning? What is that called? Sketch. They have all these little symbols. Eric,
Sketch notes.
Yeah, those people are amazing. My handwriting's so horrible, I can't do it. So.
And the bullet journaling with the symbols.
Yeah, that's
and everything.
it. Bullet journaling. Yeah. That's what I was
another
thinking
one.
about. Yeah. So, yeah.
Jeff,
so
I thought of another thing that is a productivity tool sitting here on my desk.
that is so true. That is so
have.
true. Yes.
These are
Ember mugs.
We're Ember twins unite.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
a coffee mug that stays heated. There's heating coils, and it's there's a little tray thing that will keep it charged, and it connects Bluetooth to your phone, so you can set different temperatures for different drinks. This one's empty now, but
it's I love it because I can set it. Yeah, like you said, for tea or coffee, I have different temperatures. It's expensive, but it's the thing that if it broke, I would go and get it the next day because I use it every day. Yep. So another shout out, Roger Wakefield. Amazing Roger Wakefield over on Facebook. Thank you, Roger, for tuning in today. He is my favorite plumber in the whole wide world. He's amazing.
Yeah.
His YouTube is just top notch. So, all right. So I'm going to hit go on the podcast machine. We are going to get started with the show. Feel free as we're going along today to ask your questions, throw in your productivity tips, share this out among all the socials. We'd appreciate that. And with that, I'll get started and hit go. Hello, folks. Welcome to social. I'm going to start that again. That's what happens when you haven't done this for a week. So here we go. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
And I'm Grace Duffy, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media. And today we're exploring a new topic. Jeff?
Productivity strategies for 2022. Yeah. Today we are joined by Erik Fisher, and the show is going to be about being more productive in 2022. We're covering strategies for prioritizing what is essential in your life and sharing tools for collaborating with remote teams and customers. We're also going to be talking about what it takes to unplug from time to time, but still keep your business going. So I'm so excited to have Erik back in the show, back on the show with us today. Erik, how are you doing I'm my friend?
I am doing great. I'm actually off today. I get a day off. The company that I work for, we have the first Friday of every quarter off, starting with this one. And so when you asked me to do the show, I was like, do I really want to do a show on day? I'm like, no, it's fun. I'm just here hanging out with my friends. This isn't work. This is fun.
Yeah. So if you do not know who Erik Fisher is, you probably haven't been on the internet for a while, but he is the producer and host of the long-running Beyond the To-Do List podcast. For almost 10 years, he's talked with experts on how to implement productivity strategies in their personal and professional lives. He is also the senior social media manager at Bizzabo. Erik, so glad. Tell us about Bizzabo. What is it? Because it's kind of hard to say, and this is relatively new for you.
It's an event experience OS. So it's software that enables you to have an amazing event experience on site, online, virtually, as well as hybrid. So we used those a bit. We used Bizzabo back in the day. I think it was 2 or 3 years straight. Back when it was just a digital app, just a virtual app at Social Media Marketing World, when we were all part of that mix.
Right.
And that's how I knew of them. But man, have I been immersed in the event world in the past few months. It's amazing. So if you for any reason need to put on events, you should really check out Bizzabo.
Yeah.
It is an amazing experience engine and OS.
Very, very cool. So I want to do a shout out real quick to our sponsors over on Ecamm because they've got something amazing coming up. It's an event as well, but it's our friend Kelly Mirabella is doing a challenge going from Oh No to Ecamm Pro, which I thought was a really, really cool little plug there. But they're going to be doing, starting on January 17th through the 21st, they're doing daily live streams at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And each day, Kelly is going to dive into Ecamm live with you. She's going to be answering your questions. She's helping you to go from, like I said, Oh No to Ecamm Pro. They've got daily worksheets. They've got checklists with a lot of help along the way. So make sure you take the challenge with them. If you're wanting to up your live video game, that's one of your resolutions for the beginning of the year. This is one a challenge that you want to go and try out. So if you go to facebook.com/groups/eCam Live, that's the place where you can sign up and get all the information that you need about this challenge. It's going to be amazing. Kelly is amazing. But facebook.com/groups/eCam Live. So we'd love for you guys to go check that out. So first section, Grace, we're talking productivity today. This is fun. We got the guy who's knows the most about productivity that I know. So kick us off with this first segment.
Absolutely. Well, we wanted to start the year off right with a sense of intention and purpose. And so I'm so excited to have our friend Erik here to discuss his productivity strategies for 2022. And so we're all getting back to work, at least this week we all have been, but it's not quite business as usual. We're still dealing with a lot of adjustments for travel, the conference world, definitely on Erik's side, remote work for the rest of us. And then, just some various lifestyle changes. And I know that the last 2 years have been giving us a lot of time to reflect on what's important and reprioritize and reconnect. So I want to kick this off with Erik. Did you have any New Year's resolutions around productivity? If so, what were they? I want to hear. I want to know.
Yeah, so I typically, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, don't hold a firm, fast, I cross this line, and from that point forward, I resolve to, hunker down and do this thing forever and ever till the end of time. Like, I just don't do that. I don't necessarily make resolutions per se. I'm more of and there's nothing wrong with them, but there is something good about assessing where you're at. And, different people out there have different things they do. Like Chris Brogan has his word or words of the year, which I know I've done a couple of times in the past. And it's kind of a blanket term to kind of, or a lens to look at the quarters of the year through that you're walking into. And I think especially I've gotten away from resolutions with the past 2 years, but even more so, 2017 through 2019. And then obviously 2021 and 22
It's so hard to
threw
say.
everything out of whack. So I kind of grew tired of doing as much annual stuff, but I like to look at the larger picture, but I also like to look at the short term frames in between that, the 12-week year type stuff. I mean, that's Jeff and I have been part of a mastermind. We don't typically adhere to, so what's this quarter look like for you as much anymore as we used to, but we did. And when we entered into that, it was like, okay, 12 weeks is a good amount of time to be able to make some kind of incremental course correction, etc. And so being able to look at that, being able to assess where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go, and kind of just look both ways on the timeline and decide, okay, do I need to turn the, ship this amount of degrees left or right, or do I need to jerk the wheel, whatever, and that's where resolutions come in. I would think it's like, if you find yourself in a, what, I need to jerk the wheel. Something's wrong. I need to make things happen here. But the thing is even when you're jerking the wheel and turning suddenly, you're not going to turn suddenly, but you can start to go that, like, in other words, I'm thinking of like, everybody wants to, lose that 50, 60 pounds or whatever it is.
COVID weight. Yeah, that's right.
Lose your COVID weight. In other words, you're not going to lose all that in a matter of, a New Year's resolution to lose that weight could be a good one. Just know, if you were to start right now to lose it, you won't until 3 months out, probably 2 to 3 months at least, unless you're literally starving yourself. So,
right.
And I've got some, course correction things that I'm working on in terms of sleep and energy and intermittent fasting and things like that. Mm-hmm. But overall, those were things I was already inching towards anyway, and or testing out and working on last quarter. Specifically, though, one of the things that's interesting is we New Year's resolutions come at this point in time where we're in winter, which, depending upon where you're at, it's real cold. You've just done a full year's worth of activity. You need to rest. And that's what's most important. And so I think what's interesting is the whole productivity / fix your life refocus that happens at the beginning of January kind of really should happen September or or summertime. Somewhere where it's more like you can be more active, you can be more focused, you can be in other words, it's the wrong time of year to be thinking of kicking things into gear. We should actually be assessing and making plans this quarter for the other 3. That's my personal opinion.
So it's really interesting because a lot of people I think feel that same way. In fact, I'm editing a podcast right now for Guy Kawasaki coming up with BJ Fogg, and he wrote a book called Tiny Habits. And the science behind habit forming is not. It was fascinating because it's not about making these things. You have to tie it to an emotion, and it's got to be in your schedule, and it's going to be a fascinating podcast. But one of the things I know, like a lot of people have been reprioritizing their life and figuring out how work fits in. We've talked about it in past shows about the Great Resignation, but everything from the type of work you do, where you work, how you work, there's all these new options, or people are having them come up to the top of their mind right now. So what are some tools maybe, or some tips you suggest for helping people figure out where they should put that focus and energy? Is there, some hacks that you found to be really, really helpful?
Well, I think one of the things that when it comes down to this, figuring out where you want to spend your time, I mean, obviously doing a time audit and saying, oh, I'm spending all this time on this thing that I need to, that I didn't realize. Okay, that's not good. It's like looking at, like, we got a video game system over Christmas. My son has already beaten 2 games, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And I look and I see it's like time spent, and I'm like, oh, like it's insane how much time he's already spent. Now, he was off from school, so he could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if suddenly so I don't expect me to get a lot done if I'm spending a lot of time doing so. But it's amazing to me how much we don't pay attention to how much time we're spending on little things like that. Like my phone is not sitting here anywhere near my desk because I wanted to be fully present and fully focused on this conversation and talking with you guys. And thing is that how many times are we picking that up to check the time /swipe/ then just dive into all the different apps and just like, it's so insane to me how little time we have, and then we fritter it away like that. So that's first step, is just kind of take an audit, see what you want to, see what you're spending your time on and what you can eliminate and or put boundaries up. Part 2 to that is, what do you want to be spending your time on? What should you be spending your time on? And only when you do like a brain dump and actually look at your calendar / do a time audit, do you start to see the patterns form and realize, well, if I could free up all this time, suddenly what would I use it for? And honestly, I think some of us don't even know what we want to be using it for or could be using it for, but we but we could, I mean, for example, I know that, Jeff, you were doing a bunch of carving and things, remember? I mean, that was something you had to free up time for. Now you were kind of multitasking where you were doing a live show doing it, but that's, it really comes down to, where are you spending your time now? And what do you wish you were spending your time on?
So I want to just ask our audience, because I know a lot of people are talking about like tools there, and one of Megan Powers, thanks for joining, Megan. She goes, haha, I'm going to resolve to speak clear because I screwed up the beginning of the show. And then another one says Photoshop and Tailwind are some and paper planners are their most important productivity tools. Digital artist that sells products on Zazzle full time. That is very, very cool, Nelda, that you do that. And then other people are like, somebody said, this may be Lou, I much prefer a word of the year versus resolutions, that they see results from that, which is really, really cool. Sabrina says this, I love what Erik said. I don't do resolutions in January. January seems to never be a fresh start. It's a letdown from the holiday season, which when you were talking, Erik, I was thinking about that, because you almost need a vacation from your vacation, or a holiday from your holiday.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I know, Grace, I know you have you found some great articles about this, so I'll let you take this next question.
Well, I love all these people that are piping in with their paper planner, because I honestly felt like I was pulling that out of the dark ages. But honestly, what's something that Erik said about how, you go on your phone to check the time and suddenly you're in there. That's why I wear a watch to check the time, and I have my paper planner, and it's just doing these things that are more intentionally offline are tips. So I love that everyone in the comments is in on that. So my next thing I want to talk to you about was, there's this article in Business Insider about author Tim Ferriss, which of course we all know from the 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Chef, 4-Hour Body. totally monopolize that 4-hour thing. And so he says that he conducts a past year review instead of setting a New Year's resolution, kind of like what Erik was talking about. And he does it to be more productive. There's a whole 5-step process in doing this. If you want to know more about it, I would suggest finding this article in Business Insider. But he does talk about maximizing the positives in your life and downgrading the negatives. So he does that full inventory assessment of what is positive in your life, what is negative, and do more of the things that make you happy, right? So you've already touched a little bit on this, Erik, but tell us how you would apply the same principle in our work life and our business. Now, we've talked a lot about how we implement this in our personal lives, but how do you apply this habit to work? And how would you even implement this, considering everyone else is just kind of rolling in out of our hibernation in January?
Yeah. Well, and again, this is another reason why I really like the 12-week year versus annual planning. Now, I know there's a place for annual planning, but think about it. It's arbitrary. It's like January to December. Friend of ours, all of us, I believe, Mike Vardy, he starts his year in September, which I think is crazy and amazing at the same time.
Yeah.
I kind of prefer to not have it be as overwhelming a task to do a full year review. And I would rather go with let's look at the quarter I'm closing and the quarter I'm heading into. In other words, let's take it 3 months at a time. And it's much more manageable. It's much more able to, because if I said, this is the year of insert here, and then like 2 months in, something happens like, I don't know, a pandemic, then my words are going to change or my resolutions are going to change. But like I can pivot in a quarter neatly and easily and kind of assess where am I at with a certain project. Oh, okay, I need to push pause and start this, see if it maybe makes sense to pick this back up in another quarter or two, something like that. I can't, and honestly, I just think that this is with projects. Projects are big, daunting, overwhelming things, but you break them down into steps or chapters, and you can break those down into tasks and so on, and then you can knock it out bit by bit. So
right.
I kind of lean towards, instead of doing a full year, I mean, you can do a retrospective if you want to, but I kind of say, well, I've already handled the first 3 quarters, going quarterly review to get to the end of the year and just assess September, October, November, December-ish area timeframe. So
interesting.
That's me.
So Sabrina says she loves the paper planner too, Grace. She uses the happy planner, which that's perfectly on brand for Sabrina. And Jim says he sets goals instead of resolutions, which I really like. Resolutions sound so formal, like if you break this resolution that you're going to,
It sounds like you're signing a lifetime contract.
It's like you're buying a house. Joseph says this, and Joseph, thank you for sharing and being transparent. He says he's found clarity on what is important when he was diagnosed with cancer. The things you thought were important change. So, and then #OneLife. And we have a friend, Owen Video, a lot of you know in the audience, who's going through the same sort of thing. And it really does focus to that. And one of the things about social media is when people do share that also helps us think about, are we prioritizing things right? So Joseph, we'll be praying for you, and thank you for your transparency on that. A lot of some other people have said, like Dustin says, he loves the idea of working 1 quarter at a time, which, I think I say that, and then I kind of, towards the end of the year, everything just kind of goes crazy and flies away. Jim likes that quarterly approach, and he's also been using the 3 words for his year. I do the same thing, Jim. I have it on my monitor, the 3 words that I do for a year, and I change that out every year. So I think I love the Brogan's idea, and Sabrina goes, yes, Jeff gets me. So as we're going on, guys, put in the comments, what is there some new focus that you're going to have for 2022? I'd love to know what you guys are going to focus on, because we're talking about productivity tips, and focusing is what has changed that you're wanting to really do more of in 2022. And what other habits, Erik, as we take it from a business standpoint? So what should we as business owners, and you're a business owner, even though you're working for somebody else, you have your podcast, which is this whole separate business. Yeah. What should we do in 2022 to be more productive and effective at our work kind of life?
Well, we're going to get into this more later in the conversation, I'm sure. But the biggest thing that I can say that anybody should do in terms of the habits that you want to create, if you don't already have this in place, is to take breaks. And I don't mean just like I said, I could say pick the phone up. I'm like, it doesn't count if you're doing the same, if you're in the same position physically, in the same location physically, space wise, if you're doing the same, if you're just switching to a different size screen than the one you were using to do the work, or even if you were writing with paper and then pick something up. In other words, really differentiate, really break it up, really get into a different physical state of mind, or a physical state of presence, a physical state of mind, all those different things. In other words, take real breaks. Turn music on if you weren't listening to music, like real music, not just like listen to this music so it helps you focus on the work that you have to get done type music, but actual music you enjoy, lifts your spirit, in other words.
Yeah.
Or go outside for a walk, get some actual sun if you can. Get fresh air, things like that. In other words, making a change of pace and a change of scenery and a change of mindset can really help. And it's one of the biggest things that I think we overlook. We constantly are going through the entire day. And even when we say we're taking a break, we're scrolling with our fingers or with our hands or something, or we're looking at yet another screen. And by not having that built-in decompression time or like take a nap, in other words, it resets your brain. So
don't take a nap during our show, though, is the important thing.
Not right now.
Not right now. Yeah.
No,
so
not right now.
I want to bring up some more comments because some people are really sharing some great things. A Facebook user said we made a community tracker for my membership this month. That is very, very cool. Jim is saying his focus is going to be scaling his business, creating more content, and taking time to learn new things. I love that last one because I think finding out new things is one of the best ways to be creative. Our pal Shannon Hernandez says he just read an article on Business Insider about taking breaks. Taking breaks is huge for him. I think we do a poor job of this in the United States. I know Ian, he's on another holiday. It's like they take every week, they have some new holiday that they go celebrate, which is great. I'm not knocking that. I wish we would do that more here in the States. And Sabrina says she's actually going to focus on herself more and take more time off, not weeks at a time, just carve out 3-day weekends, take more half days. I think that's awesome, Sabrina. A lot of people are getting rid of mental and physical clutter. Does it bring you joy? Let it go. What is it that
Marie Kondo.
Sparking joy. And Dustin's doing the Pomodoro technique. Helps him stay fully energized throughout the day. That's really, really cool. A lot of people have some really great focus tips. But now I want to talk about this because we kind of went into, our business. Eric gave some great tips about how to be better at doing that. Taking breaks is a part of it. But I want to talk about collaboration across teams because even if you're a solopreneur, as you grow, even if you don't have full-time employees, a lot of times you'll have, VAs that you'll be using or contractors or something like that. And, so much of productivity comes from being able to work with a distributed team every day or, once a week or whatever. So there's a lot of these new work from home mandates that have been extended at many of organizations, a lot of them that we've worked for. And so companies are starting to double down on collaborative solutions that help productivity, like in Zoom time, because we're all tired of Zoom calls. So we want to talk about how we can collaborate with teams. All of us have been on the same team before, working on projects and promotions and stuff like that. So I think we forget, and a lot of people watching may forget, this is new to a lot of people. This is something that we've been doing it for years, but a lot of people are like, I had to master Zoom last year. Which we were doing live video back, when it first came out.
We were already doing Skype before that.
So as this grows, Eric, what do you think are some ways that you can, you have to do this now with your job is meetings and all this stuff and collaborating with, you have people who edit your podcast. How do you manage all that and still because you can always be putting out fires and never get anything done. So what are some tips that you would give us for managing teams?
Well, when it comes to being part of a team or managing a team, especially remotely, it is all about two things: communication and expectation. And it's not just about those things. It's about having clear and good communication and clear and good expectations that are all agreed upon. So, we've all been in different scenarios where we've got multiple channels. We've got email, we've got Slack, we've got Facebook messages, we've got Twitter DMs, we've got WhatsApp, we've got I think I mentioned Slack already, but see, I'm like already lost in the weeds. And it's like, when somebody can message you on any of those, text messages, phone calls, even,
Yeah.
if those are still a thing. And if you don't know which each of those channels is expectation that it's used for, then if you're suddenly getting for example, if I have a person who only ever emails me and suddenly I've got a phone call coming in, like, oh, that must be an emergency, is the default mode that I go to, right? And a lot of other people are as well, because phone is kind of reserved for, I've got to get you now because this is an emergency.
Right.
But if it's a phone call and it's not an emergency, you've now trained me that you see that all these things are possible. Like, it may be. And so what I'm getting at here is that we have accepted this status quo of always being on call, or at least feeling like you are, because there's not clear expectation either from leadership or from management or being in the team or all of the above as to how and in what way and when, especially, we are using certain channels to communicate changes in status or expectations or all of that stuff. It first and foremost, and especially this comes with having a culture at a company, or if you're the head of it, having the right kind of statement and outright expectation stated. Like, it's almost like an email responder, but for everything in life and everything in business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard when, especially when we've all worked in social media. So, I mean, there are 50 ways that we can be contacted. So,
Right.
and it's,
and it's the fear of missing out. It's again, it's that whole on call constantly. Like, if I'm trying to build my brand, or, like as Jim is talking about, create more content. Well, in order to create that content, I got to know what people want. So I've got to make sure I'm always on social, so I know what they want, so I can make what they want, so they get it from me and not somebody else. And it's this spiral of psychology and emotion when it comes to, if I want to be the best at what I'm good at, over and even look at it as a competition with the next guy who does basically the same thing, but with their voice versus my voice, right? It's imposter syndrome. We can go down that road, but we don't have to. But point being, like, all of these factors start to meld into just anxiety of, I guess I'm going to have to carry my phone with me at all times so that I can scroll through things at all times. And I know we always say turn off the notifications as like a default, but a lot of people don't. And even those that don't, or even those that do, will actually still, again, like me, pick the phone up and start scrolling. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. Take some time away, but like, you've got to break the cycle to then reassess how frequently you should be using some of these communication tools.
Yeah.
absolutely.
People are saying, great points, Eric. FOMO and imposter syndrome are real. And the other thing is, we've all had this happen, maybe from the same person, but that we've had an email. We made the mistake of, on a Saturday, checking our email, and then then your weekend is ruined because you're like, I'm going to have to deal with this. And so one is making those habits that you do unplug during the weekend, and also training, like you had mentioned, training your people, or even sometimes your bosses or your that you're contracting with, that what mode of communication that we've done. We have to do this with on Guy's team. We're like, we have a system that we have set up, and it works really, really well with Peg and I and Guy, and messaging about the podcast. But I also think, and I know Thanksgiving is over, but I'm so thankful that I see so many people who work remotely that they are on meetings all the time. And I think we have a meeting epidemic, because most of these meetings are worthless, And I mean, I feel for you guys who don't have the control to stop that. But if you are a manager and you're doing that, stop it. It's not worth it. It's killing people. When are they supposed to get work done? I'm just like amazed. Like their schedule is booked in. And they're telling me, yeah, I got to go get in another meeting. And I'm like, do you really? How do you do any work? And so anyway.
Well, so Jeff, that actually piggybacks into the other point that I wanted to make, which is that not only is it about clear communication and expectation, but once you have those in place, it's about time blocking. And it's about stating, I mean, you've got to have the communication and expectation piece first to be okay with saying, I am going to put this time block on my calendar, say what it is I am doing, and then close Slack and close email and close those communication channels, and know that anything that could be communicated to me during that time that I am doing the actual work that I'm paid for, whether you pay yourself or someone else does, during that time, it's going to be okay if I'm not paying attention to those incoming inputs. I don't need more inputs. I need to close these loops on these outputs first.
Right. So Elisa says, I talked to someone the other day whose company policy is that they only meet us for as long as they can hold a plank. And I know that there's also, they have standing meetings where you can't sit. You have to stand, and that makes the meeting shorter. Amazon, and this was from another interview that I heard, what I edited for Guy Kawasaki, was that had one of the founders of Amazon on, and they have to have a written agenda for all their meetings. I mean, I think that kind of stuff is genius. Instead of just showing up and like, okay, it's our weekly Monday meeting. What are you gonna say, Grace? I'm sorry.
And I know Shannon said in the comments here, meetings should be emails. And absolutely. I think often that's true, but sometimes the opposite is also true. Don't Slack me to death. Don't email me to death. Let's get in a Zoom for 5 to 10 minutes and literally do the rapid fire back and forth, get on the same page and shut it down.
Yeah. But Grace, you have a good time management thing that you found that it's coming to the forefront again. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh, the Eisenhower time management system? Yeah. So Inc.com published this article, President Eisenhower from the 1950s, of course, was credited with this. And it's 2 questions that he would ask. And it formed a simple matrix. Is a task urgent or not urgent? And then is it important or not important? And then, or is it critical to the achievement? Is it satisfying a business goal? You can find this article in Inc. It's just Eisenhower time management system. It was an article from this past week. Mm-hmm. So I know there's a lot of systems that talk about this. We've always talked about what's urgent, what's important, what's on fire, what's not. So Erik, talk to us about what, in terms of delegating tasks. So we've talked about managing ourselves, managing the people up above us, but we manage teams. I manage people too. And so, how do you go about delegating tasks to team members?
Well, again, this goes back to that clear communication and expectation. So if I am asking people to do things that's not part of their, like having joined a company recently, it's all about figuring out, okay, who do I go to when this happens? Or who is the person that if I need this done, I ask to do it? And figuring all of that out, once we've got that workflow in place, then it's like, oh, okay. And what's great is I love the Eisenhower matrix. I don't live my life by it, but at the same time, it's great for triaging short and long term and being able to say, what's urgent and what's important, or what's not urgent, what's not important, and then all the different combinations therein. But once you have an idea of that, and in fact, I actually had a really good conversation. I think it was this week or the week before, the recent episode with Don Curry on my show. And his book's called When to Say Yes. And it's all about this. It's all about all these requests that are coming in. And I know you asked, about delegating. Well, what if you're the receiving end of that delegation? It's about saying, well, okay, here's the thing, boss. If you want me to get this done, then you also need to be somebody who steps in and says, what other priority that I'd already had needs to get delayed or be deferred, either time-wise or to someone else due to this urgent thing and important thing that you're now asking me to do. So I guess I would say keep that in mind as you're also delegating out and receiving delegation in.
Yeah.
He also makes a good point that there are different spheres or different, like I think I've explained this to you before, Jeff, where it's like these concentric rings where I'm in the middle, and right out from that is my
Oh yeah.
wife, my daughter, my son. Right out from that is like my mom and other extended family, and then that's where Jeff and a few other friends here come in, and then further out and further out. And it's like based on how close the request is, in which circle also changes how you relate to it and signify it, whatever,
Yeah.
and your boss is in there somewhere, but you figure that out.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So another article I read was talking about there's a huge opportunity right now because, and I totally agree that the hybrid work situation we're in is not going to go away. This is going to be for the rest of time because people have found out they like it. They don't want to come into the office every week. They're even thinking like, I saw some stat, they're going to have like 3 days in the office and then 2 days, out, kind of is going to be the standard they think. But there's a real opportunity right now for all these app creators and SaaS companies to really build these tools that help facilitate this hybrid and remote working. Do you have any like tools or apps, like specifically apps? We've kind of mentioned the big ones like Slack and all that stuff, but other things that would simplify, like getting, because you're not in the office, but some people are, like this collaborations that's going to happen with your clients and your customers. Are there any things that you like to use that aren't so much the standard, like Slack and Zoom and those kind of things?
Yeah, well, one that a lot of people do use this, but one that we use is Airtable because it can do so many different things, and it works a lot like an Asana or a Trello in certain ways with the Kanban, where it's imagine a big board in front of you, and there's different things on it, and as they move through various stages of progress, they move across the board. And different people are tagged, and comments are in there, and all that kind of good stuff. So Asana, Trello, they've been around a while. We use Airtable. I hear great things about ClickUp. Some of the problem with some of these is that you end up having a tool that is almost like a Swiss Army knife on steroids, where it's just like so many different bells and whistles that you can do. I would say think about what it is. Think about what the bare minimum is that you need to be able to use these for, and see which one can cover you there. Again, a lot of them have free options as well.
Yeah. One of my favorite actual tools is, of course, Ecamm. That's my productivity tool. And they are also a sponsor of the show. So not only will it let you do very cool live videos like we're doing right now, but it also lets you record. I've done whole presentations because you can record straight to your computer and not go live. You can actually do, you could do a TikTok video because it lets you do the tall video. And so it's very, very cool. Thank you so much for Ecamm for sponsoring the show, but you can find out more about them at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. Don't forget they have this new challenge. If you have gotten one of your Christmas presents was Ecamm for yourself over this year, if you wanted to get trained on that, this challenge is coming up that Kelly's doing. Make sure you guys go find that out in their Facebook group because that's going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun. But one of the most important thing is this next section that I want to talk about. We teased it at the beginning of the show. It is all about unplugging because, and Mitch had this great comment earlier in the show. He goes, trends in social media consumption mirror our productivity. We waste time on lots of small distractions versus concentrated big ones, just like how we waste hours watching short 15-second videos. And sometimes we need to watch those to unplug, which we're going to be talking about. But Grace, I know you found some really great articles about this. Yeah. And I don't think we do it enough, or we say, oh, that's a good idea, and we try it for a week or two, and then we go back to our bad habits. So talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, well, in researching this show, I expected to find a lot of, and here's how to make 2022 top notch. Here's your list. Here's this, here's that. But instead, what I found was a lot of articles titled things like New Year's resolution, be less productive. Here's how, and here's why. So I know that a lot of people now we talked a lot about unplugging and taking that time off and taking those breaks. And I think that's where we are at right now, especially after the last couple of years of total upheaval. So the writer of this article, she's a writer. She's been self-employed for 10 years. And she says that every January 1st, she makes a resolution to be faster, more efficient, agile at work. Like many business owners, she had a very complicated relationship with rest. We've all, we were just talking about how, there's that urge of being in the know, the FOMO and everything. And of course, being self-employed, she struggles because you're on your own. You're not relying on a company or a team. And so all of this was wrapped up in her sense of self-worth, with, of course, is a whole other topic. But this year she decided to stop berating herself for not accomplishing every goal that she hits, and taking more of that time to find something called joy and creativity. So let's talk about unplugging and continuing to find that joy and creativity, because to be honest, it's hard to be creative when you're constantly going. Creativity takes a matter of time to like step back, to think about things slowly, organically, whether that's on a walk or doing something else. You're not going to necessarily find all that creativity watching hours of 15-second videos. At least I haven't. So talk to us about that, Erik.
Yeah. Well, I love when these are almost my favorite articles, because it just kind of gives me a pulse as to where people are when it comes to the way that they view productivity. So for somebody to say, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to aim to be less productive. And I'm like, that's not a good goal.
No, it's not. It's not.
Because what they're really saying is I want to, this year moving forward, be less busy. There's a difference. There's a difference between busyness and productivity. Productivity is, to me, using the time you have for what you intended it to be used for. So watching those 15-second videos, if I say I'm going to sit down and watch a bunch of 15-second videos in a row, or the same one over and over and over again, because it makes me feel good, and I said that's what I was going to do, then I've been productive. I don't think that's something we should feel guilty about if we decided and we knew with a clear conscience that was a good use of my time. Same thing with productivity. It's like, well, people want to say, well, that wasn't a productive use of your time. And people think productivity is squeezing every last bit of juice out of every second of every day. Carpe diem, crush it, all that. I'm like, no, there's a productivity for me. Again, if I intended to use the time for that reason, and it was a good use of my time, and I did what I said I was going to do, good for me. That 30-minute nap, that was productive. That day off, that was productive. Me unplugging at a certain time of day,
right,
that was productive. Like, me working on the weekend could actually be productive if I said I was going to do it, or if I have it compartmentalized or broken up into the ways that I want it to be. So I'm dancing around here, but ultimately it's about the way you look at what productivity is, and the way that you look at, again, this constant buzz of, like I was talking about earlier, feeling like you are constantly on call. And if you can short circuit that expectation from others or in your own brain that you have of yourself for that, and you can say, I'm now less productive, but what you really mean is you're less busy. Now, which would you rather be, less productive or less busy? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a question from somebody over on Amazon Live, which is great. They said, well, how can a person, and Erik, this is right up your alley, how can a person be unplug and also edit podcasts? Because it sounds like they are like a podcast producer and they have their own show, and you and I both know that can suck. That can take a lot of time. How can you unplug and also be an editor, I guess? What are your tips for that? Because you've done it for 10 years.
Well, yeah. And up until recently, I have edited my own show, and I just had to put the blinders on. I had to, what I did find was I often use brain.fm.
Yeah, I do.
And I figured out that for a while there, if you played that and then turned the sound of the podcast up, especially if there wasn't music in the podcast, but it was just the conversation that you were editing, you would get some of that vibe off that Brain FM, killing the fight or flight. But ultimately, if you can sit and do a chunk of something and then get up and take a break and then sit and do it again, and for that break, that be your social media time, it's like, okay, good, there's no fires. Or, okay, good, I've got, that thing I did got however many likes and people still like me. Great. If that's what you're going for, which for me it's not, but like, that's what I'm saying. In other words, it's if you really can't separate constantly being connected, there's a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be able to flip a switch and step away and do things that are more important.
That's why I love this timer, because I use this for, especially when I'm editing Guy's podcast, because I need to get up and not sit for a long period of time. So this is a perfect little thing that I use. Dustin mentioned the Pomodoro technique too that he used. I think that's how you say it. That's how I say it. But this, this whole thing about creativity and adding more creativity to our work is super fascinating to me. I am a shameless plug. I'm starting a new podcast all about not productivity, all about creativity, and I'm so excited about that. So if you guys want to be like on the launch crew or get a sneak peek to it, just send me a DM in the comments, and I'll add you guys to this and let you listen to like a pre-version of it, because I'm really excited about it. But fascinating about creativity. So
I've heard it. It's great.
Yeah, so Erik and Grace has heard it as well, so I sent it to her too. So very excited about that coming up. But that's my thing for this year. But what are some of your tips, Erik, about advice about nurturing more creativity? Like, what do you mentioned Brain FM. Do you have any other hacks that you have, like when you feel like, man, I'm in a slump, I'm not feeling very creative? What do you do to kind of get past that hurdle?
Yeah, well, and the thing is, we often talk about, you can't output anything if you're not inputting anything. So consume stuff that will inspire you and all that. And that's great. And, I'm going to toe that line and say that's great. Keep doing that. Pick and choose and definitely go consume things. Whether, again, it's setting aside the time intentionally to go look at 15-second videos and see what's out there. And there's some great ones that make you feel awesome or funny or creative. And you're just like, oh, I just got an idea. And you write that down and you capture it. But you also have to completely unplug. Like, you have to disconnect from the consuming and let what's already in your head start to spin around and, ruminate and simmer like in the pot. You got to back burner some stuff and let it sit there and let it just simmer, and let it, because often it's great to have lots of ideas, but some of the best ones are the ones that you like hold in your head for a while. Right. And connect up with other ideas and someone else. Because once you're thinking on something, your brain's constantly working, so why not let it by letting it breathe? In other words, let your brain breathe.
So, Erik, have you ever taken a sabbatical from social media? Like, I know so many of our friends in the industry have from time to time. Is this even something that's possible?
Yes, I went for I think it was 12 or 13 days straight without social, just like a week ago. And it was great. Like, I offloaded all the apps, just, and or delete them. Depends on who you are, what you're doing. But yeah, if you can offload those apps, if you can just go without it for a long time, like, and I even removed, like, I created a separate screen, like on your phone now, on iOS especially, you can move all your stuff to a certain page and or just remove pages. So my front page was like, I had like 2 widgets there, and then like phone, texting, camera, settings, and that was it for like almost 2 weeks straight. And it was like, I didn't have to pick my phone up to do anything. I relied on my watch for the time. It was, and or like phone calls and texts, and that was it. Like, and I did take, I did left the camera, kept the phone on me, because I was like, I want to capture moments with video or with images, and I did. But I wasn't like picking it up constantly to open up an app and open up another app and open up another app and just scroll. And by not doing that, the habit of doing that became so much less of a pull that it was a great reset to be able to stop doing that constantly now, once I've got those apps back freely able to be used again.
So I would love for you guys in the comments to let us know, what are some of your hacks that you use to help, keep you on track, be more creative. We had somebody over, Erik's one of his tips he gave me, he calls it a nappuccino, where you drink some coffee and then you take a little nap, and by the time you wake up, the caffeine is kicked in and you're ready to go. And so I've been doing that. I love it because it does help with creativity. It gives you a little break. You're down and you're and a lot of times creativity will bubble up through that. We had somebody on Amazon Live saying they have a Fitbit that buzzes 50 minutes after the hour to get up when they're doing their editing and get up and do stuff like that. One of my hacks that I do is that I change my watch face on the weekend to Mickey Mouse, and that way when I look at it like, okay, I got to do something. I remember that I'm supposed to be on downtime right now, so Mickey Mouse around a little bit more. So Joseph says he uses the Headspace app, which I've heard a lot of good things about that. Gary uses the timer on his Apple Watch. That's a great. Yeah, they've redone the timers now where you can have multiple ones, which I think is really, really cool. I really like what they've done with that. And
or your voice assistants using timers for you as well.
Yeah.
See how I didn't use their name?
Yeah, Megan likes the Nappuccino idea as well. So back to like taking a break, sabbatical. This is our last question. What are some tools that you, like when you went offline for that amount of time, I couldn't even get a hold of him. That's how deep he went
it's not
offline.
True.
And he said, what are some ones we can set and forget? Like what are, to put our social media, that's what you do at Bizzabo. What are some tools that we can use? Like we can batch stuff and then we can actually take like a vacation or a break. Is there anything that you use to automate social media?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the best things you can do is you want to make sure you've got somebody paying attention to be aware of the world at large. Because for me, one of the things I did was I did not look at the news and or Twitter to see, news items, but you want somebody who is, so that if you have content scheduled that is going out on social, that it's not in poor taste. So, and then a tool that obviously one of the tools that I would suggest when coming to scheduling content like that is Agorapulse, place that I worked for almost 2 years at one point, used for years in advance of that, has been a sponsor of this podcast before. So, and we know great people that work there, and that's just one option. There's many options when it comes to, and even here's the thing, maybe just don't post anything. Did I just say that? Maybe you don't need to.
Right.
I actually really didn't when I was gone. Like for work stuff, yes, I did. It was all scheduled and I walked away. Yeah. And somebody else had
and your podcast went out. Your podcast went out. It didn't stop.
And my podcast went out and all that kind of stuff. But like it was not a matter of, oh no, people are going to forget about me if I don't post on social media for like 2 weeks. Like you could still schedule some stuff. I could have, and maybe I should have, but did it hurt me? I don't think so. In fact, not taking the time to do it actually made it quicker and easier for me to step out and walk away.
Yeah. Karen over.
I have a friend.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I said I have a friend. She's not in our business, or doesn't do social media marketing, so it's a little bit different. She calls it post and ghost. She'll just post something on her personal page and then like go away for a while.
Right.
And I started doing that on my own personal stuff. Of course, I don't run our business channels necessarily, so it's I wouldn't do that there. But I like that post and ghost.
Yeah. And Karen over on Amazon Live says she uses the block schedule and she blocks things out, and she does that for social and also for all her, like when to go to the gym, when to do all that stuff. I wish I could do a better job at that. We've also, Gary says he's been using Agorapulse for a couple of years now, and he really likes it. So yeah, that's what we use as well. Sabrina says, exactly. Don't be tone deaf social media poster. That is very, very true. You got to watch what's going on and not scheduling some things. Gary also said he's been using the scheduling feature in Twitter for videos in the media library. That's a hack that Erik taught me a while back too. So that's really good. So yeah, set it and forget about it. So anyway, hope you don't forget about the show, because this has been an amazing show. Keep bringing the productivity tips, because I think we need reminders of those throughout the year. Thank you guys for all your comments and the things that you dropped in today that I may even have to try now. But Erik, before we end, I want to make sure that you have time to tell everybody about where they can find you, your podcast, maybe some of your favorite productivity guests that you've had on recently that we should all go and check out. So take it away.
Yeah, so you can find the show at beyondthetodolist.com. That's where, like we've said before, the show is found. You can find all the episodes there. It's going on it will hit its 10-year anniversary this year. And that's hard for me to believe, but it's true. I mentioned earlier the Don Corey episode about knowing when to say yes. That's one that's just come out. Another one that came out like right before that was Katie Kremitzos on meditation, but also she's got a really unique way of looking at achieving balance as a working mom. So that's something that a lot of people don't. Yeah. Anyway, it's important. It's important. It's important for all of us. And then there's been a bunch of other ones recently, like prioritization, all that good stuff.
Yeah, some of my favorite ones that you have on there, like from Todd Henry. Some, you've got like I think the Atomic Habits guy, hasn't he been on your show?
James Clear's been on. And let's see, just there's a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. If you were to go look up a word from what say taking a break or sabbatical or all, pick a word, go to the site and then just search for it. You'll get up all these different episodes that fit that context.
And also do me a favor and go there to your favorite podcast player and do a search for Beyond the To-Do List, listen to a couple episodes, and then subscribe, and also leave or follow now. You're supposed to follow, but also leave a rating and review for Erik, because that really helps podcasters out, lets people get the word out, and helps out the old algorithm. So make sure to check out Beyond the To-Do List on your favorite podcasting platforms. And last but certainly not least is the amazing Grace Duffy. It's been we had to skip a couple of them because you were out gallivanting around with family. But where can people? I'm so glad you're back.
Taking a break.
She was taking a break. I'll let her have that. But I mean,
you were on a break.
It's so good to have her back. It's so good to have her back. So where can we find you, Grace, now that you're here with us?
You can find me here most of the time. What have I been saying? You can find me. I'll be here except when I'm not. I am so excited to be doing this show with you, Jeff, and I'm excited to be back. I work for Restream, which is another tool I like to help set and forget, because you can also record and distribute your show to all the places, which is what we're doing with our show today. So I'm super excited. And I want to tell you one of my favorite episodes of Erik's podcast was the one he did with Michael Hyatt and his daughter. I can't remember her name, but like, that was just like, I bought the book, I joined the group, I did all the things. It was really life-changing. It was all about reprioritizing tasks.
Yeah.
And your life.
Great. There's a great guest over there. So if you haven't checked it out, you need to.
Megan Hyatt Miller.
Yes.
Very cool. And we're also a podcast, so we'd love for you guys to do the same thing while you're over there checking out Erik's show. Make sure to leave us a rating and review as well. Just do a search for Social Media News Live. Our next show is Friday, January 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. You can always find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and Amazon Live. Thank you guys so much for being here. Erik, thank you, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
That.
Right, you got us over here looking like a hot mess.
No, it's actually a powerful live streaming app for Mac called Ecamm Live. You can add some overlays to your video, whether it's a simple graphic or you want to have some titles or other info at the bottom of your screen. You can even add animated overlays like this one or this one. And you can add branded overlays to frame you and your guests and look like a real legit broadcast. And you can save each layout as a scene and switch between them with the press of a button.